Welcome to What Juices You, where we explore what energizes leaders and how that energy fuels performance, connection, and growth. I'm Brady Wilson from Juice Inc. And in each episode, I sit with leaders. We talk about what fuels them, what sustains them, the lessons they've learned that are helpful for all of us. Today, I am excited to have Lindsay Mackintosh on the show. Lindsay is an AVP and head of HR at a large Canadian financial institution. She believes that when people are supported, seen, and developed, incredible things can happen for individuals and organizations. She's especially passionate about creating opportunities for women and emergent talent to thrive. So, Lindsay, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Brady. Really appreciate you having me on your podcast today.
Yeah. So I'm going to start with a question. I have been asking people for a long, long time, what juices you? But I do want to put a finer point on it for you. Creating environments where women can truly flourish in leadership. It matters deeply to me. You know that I wrote a book about that,
Yeah.
and I suspect it does for you as well. And I know it does for you. So from your perspective, what energizes you, what juices you about seeing women succeed and advance as leaders? And Lindsay, you can go anywhere you want. This is a conversation that is going to be free flowing, or it can be as structured as you want, but I want you to have the freedom to speak about your own experiences. The one thing I know that about you is self-deprecation comes very easily to you. You're a very humble person. So I do want you to tell those stories that our listeners are going to want to hear about some of those successes in your life. And please don't be shy about that, okay?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much. So what I want to start off by saying is, in terms of what juices me and what really gives me energy back at the end of a day, as you said, working in a large organization as an AVP in human resources, and a lot of women, I think, probably can relate to this, is really thriving in an environment where I can work with a team. And so if I'm thinking about work as working with a team outside of the office, it's ensuring that I'm surrounded by people that I care about and that care about me, so friends and family, but also knowing that the work that I do and what I'm, when I'm out in the environment, that I'm leaving a positive impact on someone else's life and on someone else's day. So that's really critical to me as well. And also love really large, challenging, chaotic situations, which I know sounds ridiculous and strange to a lot of people, but that's actually kind of what gives me energy and makes me thrive, and where I do my best work, to be honest. And so when you talk about women,
I gotta drill in.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, when you talk about women in the workforce.
No, you go ahead.
Are you okay for me to jump in, Brady?
Absolutely.
Okay, perfect. So when you mentioned women in the workforce, also wanted to just mention that I have, over my career, I'm someone that people have shared is someone that people can trust and confide in, and someone who's deeply honest. So good, bad, and the ugly. But I've also had a lot of women come to me and say, I know that I can trust you, and I just did X presentation, or I'm preparing for something or a specific situation, and can I just get you to give me your true, candid feedback? And so that means so much to me in terms of being able to build those strong relationships that are bound, with a foundation of trust, and being able to kind of give back to my community of strong female leaders and talent within the organization, and being able to see them then grow and develop and flourish, just given that feedback that I've given to them as well. So that also energizes me in terms of being able to have those deep, honest conversations in, for the betterment of them moving forward.
So much there. And I want to dig into some of this. One is, not everybody can turn that corner from, I'm an individual contributor and I just get a ton of stuff done, and I take my identity from that, and I just love productivity and efficiency and whatnot, to somebody who really gets their juice and buzz out of contributing to other success and contributing through others.
Yeah.
And so how did you turn that corner? Because you are a productive person. You love to get a lot of stuff done. We'll get to the I love the chaos and the complexity and those deeper conversations where people trust. We'll get there. But was there a period of time, a season for you where you turned from, yeah, I just get a lot of stuff done to, no, the magic is contributing through others and making an impact on people's lives? Or was that always with you?
Yeah, I was reflecting on that, preparing for a conversation. And, I think those pieces of high empathy, wanting to give back to the community, being there for my friends and family, I think that just is like a core of who I am. And I know you and I have known each other
Yeah.
for a long time, and my background in terms of actually going into university for psychology. And so I think that's where that really stemmed from when I was a teenager, just thinking about what I want to do when I grow up. It was really around how do I make a difference in people's lives and give back to the community. And so psychology was something that just kind of came naturally to me. Now, and obviously, I'm not a psychologist. In fourth year university, kind of took
Yeah.
some business courses and some courses in human resources, and really found that I found my niche, and so was able to move nicely into postgraduate education in human resources, and then landing my role within the organization that I'm still with today. So was really, really fortunate really early on to be able to find that passion that kind of was met the business world, but also kind of who I am and what I stand for.
Hmm. You know what? In one sense, I kind of wish that every HR senior leader had gone through psych in
A lot of us
university
have. Yeah,
because yeah, it's true. It's true. Like reading the room and understanding what makes people tick and understanding the incredible
mhm,
complexity of the human being. Oh man, it's like it's so vital in the HR work. So I'm assuming that you draw from that those first years in university
absolutely.
all the time.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'd say even more
Yeah.
so when you're in a generalist type HR position, and you're dealing with like a vast slew of different challenges that are coming at you throughout the day. It definitely, your ability to pivot and draw
Mhm.
on some of those early learnings definitely feeds into the success within this role.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay. Chaos, complexity,
yeah.
the hairball of life in a massive organization like yours. That doesn't energize and juice everybody, but it does you.
Yeah.
What is it about that that is, yeah, that's so energizing for you?
You know what? I love so I recently we as an executive team completed our Berkman, and so it was really really eye opening for me. So I'm a red for those of you listening who have done a Berkman assessment, and so reds are doers. So that I think is kind of at the crux of why I enjoy big large challenges. I love to ensure that I am able to make an impact, and so the bigger the challenge, the more I can kind of go in, analyze, understand. I also have a little bit of blue, which is your innovative, kind of creative thinker. And so the big challenges are something
Yeah.
that just really, get me energized in terms of a large, complex situation that I'm able to really dig into. And being able to dig into that with a team is even better for me. So, the organization that I work with, we've always are faced with some, big challenges. I think any large organization does, and there's constant transformation, and the market's changing all the time. And so how do we take that information and start to change internally as well? And so over the course of my career, I think I've made a name for myself in terms of being able to come in and make sense of these really large messy situations. And so I've also been
Mm.
fortunate to have been part of a lot of really large transformations. And so I think also just doing it over and over and over again and being able to then see this positive result at the end is really rewarding. And so it's that, reward payoff at the end as well that I think just continues to drive me to want to do even bigger, more complex projects throughout my career. And on the personal side too, Brady, I'd say, I've got three kids, and so life at home is also really busy. And it was interesting thinking through kind of why I'm drawn to this, because I've actually had a lot of colleagues come to me to say, I don't know how you do what you do, and I can't imagine wanting that for myself. And all of us are different, and so I completely understand that as well. But on the personal side, one of the times that, really exemplifies that, opportunity where there's a lot on the go and just thriving in that chaos was during the pandemic. So funny enough, a few years into the pandemic, so
Hmm.
not year one, but started a brand new job within the organization, leading one of the largest transformations, agile transformations that we've undertaken. Had a really big team, got the opportunity to grow and select the team members that were working with me on that agile transformation. And so there was a lot of change and new things happening at work. We had the pandemic, and we also decided prior to the pandemic starting that we would rebuild our home. And so we continued that down that path. And so we then needed to move out,
Yeah.
find a rental home for a year, and move all the kids into that home. And so having that small quarters and having all five of us there, we were working from home full time. A lot, the kids were in and out of school at that period of time. And so there was
Oh,
a lot
yeah.
of chaos there, and then project managing a new build for our home, which was about 5 kilometers away from the rental house. So the way I kind of managed through that, though, is thriving at work, huge agile transformation, loved my team, firing on all cylinders there, and then being able to be really close with the kids when they came home from school, just being in that smaller, house in that environment. But every night after dinner, we would go for that 5 kilometer walk from our rental house to see the build. And so to see that transformation of our dream house being built, but also to find that time to connect with one another during our walks. And if I went on a walk on my own, it was time for
Hmm.
me to have that time to re-energize and be alone and listen to podcasts, and just, have that time to self-reflect. So, that's another example where it was, so to an outsider, it might look like absolute chaos, but internally was able to really kind of compartmentalize and thrive in every aspect of our life at that point of time.
Yeah. One of the things about us is we believe every person deserves to have energy left over
Yeah.
at the end of the day for their partner, for their kids, for their community, for their world. And it really feels to me like what you were experiencing in that massive transformation, hand selecting your team, stepping into the uncertainty, the ambiguity, the complexity, the chaos, was that you were actually left with energy in your battery at the end of the day that you could then apply to the construction and all five of you being in that close quarters together. So that's interesting, because I think a lot of people would look at your job in that period and go, there must have been nothing left over. And
Right.
how in the heavens did you ever step into? Yeah, but it was so. And that's the reason I say this, Lindsay, is remember it used to be that people would get to the end of their day absolutely spent
Yeah.
and think, but thank God I get to go home and get recharged. And
Mhm.
now I'm finding it's exactly the opposite. People are going, oh, I don't get recharged at home very much.
Right.
Now, I think you do, but I think a lot of people, they're, they have their evening. It's nuts.
Right.
They kind of do all the stuff they have to do. In the morning, it's crazy, like getting kids off to daycare and whatnot. And they go to work to get re-energized, which is like a real flip in terms of how it used to be. But I feel like you had it in both places, which is very unique.
Hmm. Yeah, I don't know if I'm a glutton for punishment, but I do really enjoy being busy and, being with people that I love. And I'm really fortunate to have an amazing team. Over the last 20 plus years in my organization, I can't say there's a time where I haven't worked well with the team members that I've had or the leaders that I've had. And so I think I'm just one of those really, really fortunate people, to be honest. And you mentioned, the chaos
Hmm.
at home as well. I'm really fortunate to have an amazing husband who, we definitely over the last, 20 plus years have figured out what works in our balance of who enjoys which tasks at
Yeah.
home, and being able to split the responsibility with the kids in a way that makes sense for all five of us. And so, by no stretch of the imagination am I doing this by myself. I think if that was the case, it would be a very different story. So I feel I'm really fortunate in that way too, and I recognize that not everybody's in that same boat. And so I think we do need, as leaders, to lead with empathy and to truly understand the full person that is coming to work and what their needs are outside of the workplace as well, so that we can make sure we've got the right supports and accommodations in place to ensure that they can thrive when they're in the office.
Hmm. I think you have a real ability to spot talent, to see potential that other people might not see in themselves. Like,
Mhm.
I don't know about you, but I've got enough self-doubt for like 10
Yeah.
people, and I've got enough self-limiting beliefs. But sometimes somebody comes alongside and sees something and really draws it out and gets me past the self-doubt and
Mhm.
etc. Now, I know that you do that for others.
Yeah.
I'm clear that you do that for us, but were there a few stories that happened in your journey where somebody did that for you that
Mhm.
would be really helpful for our listeners to hear?
Yeah, absolutely. Um, so if I kind of look back in my time within the organization, very early on in my career, I always kind of knew I wanted to be an HR generalist, even kind of right from graduation. And within our organization, that is a
Yeah.
management layer, and so it's a bit ambitious to come straight out of school and want want that role. And so
Yeah,
I
yeah.
had the opportunity to do a number of more junior roles, both in, talent acquisition, a diversity and equity inclusion team. And it was my time in talent acquisition
Yeah.
where my leader, I was always up front. This is kind of my goal, skills that I want to be able to build to become, an HR counselor at the time. And that leader really, she listened, she heard me, she understood what my previous experience was and my goals of where I wanted to go, and she took it upon herself to stretch me in different ways at a very junior role, and provide me with the kind of white space to be able to show her what I was capable of. And so again, when I talk about having amazing leaders
Mm.
throughout my career, she would definitely be one of them. And so then within a year of being in that role, that junior TA talent acquisition role, an HR counselor position came up. And I hadn't been looking. I didn't even see that it had been posted. And she came to me and she said, "Hey, I know that,
Yep.
it's been, you haven't been here very long, but this is a role that you've been aspiring to. What I've seen so far, I think you're capable and you can do this position. Why don't you apply?" And just to set the stage, the HR counselor job was 2 levels higher than where I was. And so it's very uncommon to do like a full 2 level promotion.
I
And
bet.
yeah, and
Yeah.
so, I had my own doubts of, am I ready yet? But she was great. And I applied for the position, had the interviews, and was successful in achieving that role. But without her, identifying the role and telling me about it, and also sponsoring me and supporting me to go for it, I definitely would not have applied for that very first HR counselor role. So who knows how that might have changed the trajectory of my career, but so super grateful for her to have that, to see something in me and to encourage me and to help me move into that first role that I really, really wanted. And then much later in my career, had another leader who came to me when I was a senior manager and said, like, "I think you're ready for an executive." And at that time, I thought, like, "You're crazy. There's no way I'm ready yet." And I'm having so much fun
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
role
Yeah.
that I'm in. Really, really was enjoying the business that I was supporting. We had a huge strategic, goals and initiatives that we were working together towards. And so I really wasn't ready to leave that yet either. But she, continued to say, "We see you as a future leader. I think it's time, just put your name in the hat and we'll see what happens." And so I did, and was successful in achieving that first executive level role. And again, she's still a mentor of mine, and so it was really, really fortunate that she again saw the potential before I did, and not pressured me, but pushed me in the right direction, and was there to help support me. And then through my first full year as an executive, was there to mentor me and coach me along the way in terms of the different skills and abilities and capabilities that I needed to be exhibiting, and how to transition from an individual contributor doer to an executive that needed to lead a strategy and come up with the way to help the business succeed. And so that was hugely beneficial that I had her in my corner as well. So definitely have had a number, and since then have had a number of leaders kind of there for me and supporting me.
Yeah. And how does this look in your life in terms of you mentoring
Mhm.
others, younger leaders or emerging leaders? I got to imagine that is a fairly significant part of your day, your week, your month, just in terms of investing in other leaders, upcoming leaders. What does that look like?
Yeah, I mean, I honestly feel that that's one of the most, I just feel really fortunate to be in a position, a leadership position within our organization where not only do I do that obviously for my direct team, on a daily or weekly basis,
Sure.
but I have also built relationships along the way. I've got people who used to be on my teams in the past who have reached out to say, I'd love it if you would continue to mentor me and coach me. And so I've got a number of mentees right now that I stay in touch with. It's based on, their cadence of when they want to connect, all at different stages within their career cycles. But it's really great to be able to see them continue to grow and to flourish, and to have me as somebody, in their corner that they can, have that conversation with and be completely honest with. They come to me and they confide in me and they trust me. And so to be able to be that for a number of young women within the workforce is really, I'm very, very honored to be part of their career path and trajectory for sure. I also have been partnering with external organizations too. So the Triac Mentorship Program is an organization that I've mentored through for the past decade. And so for those who aren't familiar with Triac, it's for new immigrants to Canada. So professionals in their own right, in their home countries that come to Canada and just find it difficult to break into the Canadian market. And so the Triac organization partners you with people who have a similar background to you. So I've had the opportunity to work with other women who have an HR background in their home countries who are now looking to build their network and get into an HR role within Canada. And then Access Employment Services is another one that I've partnered with. We recently had an Empowering Women event. And so that was really, really an amazing opportunity for me to meet, again, a group of new immigrants to Canada who are professionals and looking to build their networks. And we were guiding them through, resume tips and interview tips, and just kind of giving them a flavor of the culture within this country and the various opportunities that they should be looking at.
Where are we with regard to getting people into the saddle? Because I just feel like Canada, as we got a massive talent, I wouldn't say deficit, but we just need so many talented people.
Yeah.
Whenever I'm in a cab talking to that person, it's like, yeah, I'm from Egypt and I'm a dentist and I can all the hoops and everything. I go, this is driving me bananas.
Yeah.
Are we making progress in that regard? What would you say?
Yeah, from the experience that I've had, when you're at these events, in my experience, there's always a few people that really wow you. And so to your point, Brady, around, being in a taxi with someone who's been an engineer in their home country and now they're driving a taxi just to get, pay the bills and get by. There have been a number of people who I've met who have been really impressive at these events, who led companies in their home country. And are now kind of trying to break into, customer service level roles in Canada, just so that they can have some Canadian experience on their resume. And so wherever I possibly can, I am taking their resume, staying in touch with them through LinkedIn, and providing those resumes to our recruitment team. And so I know that there's been a few people actually out of the events that we've held over the last little while with some of those external organizations that we've hired, and we've had some really great successful hires. I can't speak to the number in terms of that kind of transition between or turnover between those events and how many people we actually hire, but I know from a few of the folks that I've met, they've had come into our organization and have had some success. So it does happen. I think what I always coach those colleagues who are at these events is keep doing what you're doing. Networking, like within the Canadian market, it's a lot of times who you know, and having that network, which obviously can be very difficult when you're just brand new to the country. You don't have a network yet. And so the more they can get to these events and network with professionals, we are all there because we want to help them. And so it's a great opportunity for us to meet people and help them make that transition into their next role.
there are a lot of reasons why people might do that. And it could be contribution, it could be the greater good, it could be making a difference, it could be altruism, it could be nurturing, it could be justice.
Mhm.
For you, what is the primary energizer for you in you putting out the effort to be
Mhm.
there? I mean, you could just say, well, yeah, you're just a good person, but but if you were to put a fine point on it, what is it that is the primary energizer for you to get people into the system who are disadvantaged?
Mhm. Yeah, I think it goes back to just that inner drive of wanting to help others, that I've always had. It's just kind of who I am innately. And so, I'm in a position of privilege in the organization that I'm in and in the world. And so, if me showing up to these events and providing some tips and hearing people, just listening, hearing people out in terms of what their passion is, where they want to be, and being able to offer my network to them, and see that that translates into them finding their first job or just expanding their network. And so that makes a positive impact on their life is really what does it for me. That's truly what's in it for me, is being able to say that I had some small part in making their life, about better. And yeah, I think honestly that would be the sole driver for me at this stage, is ensuring that I'm able to make that impact in someone's day and in someone's life.
Beautiful. So, in terms of helping others and
Mhm.
and especially emerging talent, and I want to go especially to women.
Yeah.
Uh, I wrote the book Feeling Enough. You're one of the
Yeah.
readers. How do we level the playing field in terms of the ways that we systematically disadvantaged women for millions of years,
Mhm.
both at work and at home? And so helping others out, you as soon as you want to do that, you encounter obstacles, and some of them are incredibly systemic, structural obstacles in
Mhm.
organizations and cultural obstacles. I feel like your particular financial institution is pretty much light years ahead of a
Yeah.
lot of other ones in terms of women in positions of leadership. It's phenomenal, to
Mhm.
be honest with you. Um, so, what has to be done? Like, you've done some good work at your
Yeah.
organization. What do you feel, Lindsay? Those of us who are listening to you today, what do we got to do to right this ship, to level the playing field a little bit more? What are some things that you feel would be very strategic as we are cultural architects
Yeah.
that are trying to help women get into those positions where they really should be?
Mhm. Yeah, so you're right. Our financial institution is, I think, ahead of the curve. And we do a lot of things internally to continue to move that forward. That's not something we just take for granted and then kind of say, check, we've accomplished that, let's move on. It's definitely on all of our
Right.
strategic priorities. We have committees against every area of focus, women obviously being one of those. And are very deliberate on the activities that we
Yeah.
put our energy towards to make sure that we're making the right impact, for women at all levels, not just leadership levels, at every level in the organization. Um,
Sure.
we're opening up conversations, and I think it's important for every organization to start to think about these. We within our women, committee, we have something that we like to call lean in circles. And so there are a variety of different topics. Some of the ones that I've facilitated have been around pregnancy in the workforce, and what does that look like, and how does that impact the particular woman who's
Yeah.
pregnant, and the various things that she'll need to deal with through that journey, where we also ensure that there's no negative impact to her role. We talk about menopause and how that is a
Right.
real, change in a woman's life as well. And so, how does that translate to how she may show up
Yep.
differently in her job? And just making everyone more aware that that's a real thing that we need to be
Yeah.
talking about and dealing with. Down to chronic illnesses. I think it's no
Absolutely.
surprise that more women are affected by different autoimmune disorders than men, and so it's an invisible disability for some women, and so I think it's really important to be keeping that in mind. So as a leader, ensuring that you are thinking through all of those different facets that women might be dealing with without saying they're dealing with them. We're also more of a sandwich in that sandwich generation
Yeah.
now where we've got young kids, but also aging parents. And so what does that mean? Especially as we think about, our return to office. So a lot of organizations are now, have that push for being fully back in the office 5 days a week or 4 days a week. My financial institution is one of those, but I think, there's a lot of, amazing upside to being back in the office in terms of being more collaborative together as a team, having that presence in the office. You can get a lot more achieved when you're together in the workforce. But we also need to be mindful that that actually has ripple effects, probably more so for women than men, because I don't think it's a level playing field yet in terms of that distribution of work in the home. And so we need to be mindful that even though we need people back in the office 4 days a week, how else can we be flexible? Does that mean that, yes, you're in the office Monday to Thursday, but you can come in at 9 and stay a little bit later? Or can you start really, really early and leave a little bit early? I would say for myself, when my kids were really little, I did that. And my organization had that flexibility where I was able to come in at 7 a.m., but I was able to leave at 3:45 so I could get the GO train and get home in time to pick up the kids from daycare and still have some time with them before they went to bed. So it's just thinking
Yeah.
differently about how can we provide those accommodations to women so that they don't feel that they're at a disadvantage, or they don't go for leadership roles because there's a fear that they're not going to be able to achieve the goals in that role, and that might be a derailer for their career. The other thing I think we need to be mindful of is that we're now in the age of AI, and a lot of roles that AI will eventually replace tend to be more held by females if we think about more administrative roles. And so how do we take those women who are in those roles that will likely be replaced and reskill? So instead of, exiting them from the workforce, how do we look at the
Yes.
skills and capabilities they have today and reskill them to work in other roles that, AI will not replace? And so we just need to be thinking about the workforce in a
Yeah.
really different way than we have in the past. And so, I think our organization is thinking about that. We're thinking about skills and how do we redeploy people based on their skills. But again, I'm not sure every organization is there yet. And so I think it's just something that every leadership table needs to have on the agenda in terms of thinking about how do we think differently to ensure that we don't have this large pool of female leaders and female talent walking out the door.
Having worked with a lot of organizations in that situation, I am aghast to say that rather than a mindset of retooling and reskilling, often dollar signs are in their eyes.
Right.
And it's troubling. It's really troubling. But I hear that your particular organization, whether there's an actual function of reskilling and retooling, it is certainly part of the mindset.
Yep.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, absolutely.
In terms of, so I would say there are some of us men who are bumbling allies.
Yeah.
we want to help.
Yes.
But yeah, right? It's so easy to do what we do in the world in a lot of ways, which is colonize, which is apply our own values and our own eagerness to impinge our values or whatever, wherever we go. And we could easily do the same thing here. And so the awkward ally who is listening to this today, who is a man who works with you, how can we help in this? Yes.
Yeah. I think a lot of it, honestly, is listening.
What would you say to that?
Yeah, I think just ensuring that they are there to have an open dialogue. And it's interesting you say that because there are a few men on in the women committee that I mentioned, and they are there as allies. And so it's actually amazing to see. That's new for me for this year. I've been part of these committees for many, many years. And
Interesting.
typically that particular committee is typically all female driven. And to see a few men show up this year was
Hmm.
very refreshing. And that they called it out just as you did, to say, I'm here as an ally and I don't really know what to do or what to say, but I'm here and I want to be able to provide support. And I think that in and of itself goes a really, really long way. Women, depending on, what they're struggling with in the workforce, tend to lean on other women. And so for men to come forward to say, like, don't forget about me, I'm here too, and I want to support you in any way that I can. I want to be your mentor or your sponsor, or just be here as an ear to listen to what's going on. Because obviously you wouldn't innately know what's happening for a woman, especially on, some of the invisible pieces as we talk about, menopause or chronic illness. Like, there's no way that you could possibly know that we're going through those things. And so for us to be able to open up to you and let
Well, actually, I actually do.
yeah.
I actually do, because I've got a very intimate understanding of that. And I won't say more than that, but yeah. So my wife's a medical
Oh, great.
receptionist, and yeah, just the incredible complexity of the
Yeah.
hormonal stew, and how it shows up in the day to day and in the night, where your bed becomes your biggest enemy.
Yes.
Um, I have unbelievable empathy for that period of a woman's
Yeah.
life.
And so just, as I said, being there
Yeah,
and being able to
but yeah.
listen.
So
Hmm.
yeah. Now, if we can talk about the second shift just for a second,
Yeah.
um, because that's troubling for a lot of women. They're putting out throughout the day,
Hmm.
and they come home and they're the one that's taking care of all the scheduling. They're taking care of a lot of the emotional work that needs to happen with the kids. There's just an immense amount that is sitting on the shoulders, and I don't think we're necessarily talking about malice, or we're not
No.
talking about a husband or partner who's trying to extract everything, but it's just unaware
Hmm.
and oblivious sometimes. And so you've got, it sounds like a bit of a unicorn partner
Yeah.
there, that you've really figured out how to shoulder this load together.
Yeah.
Do you have any words of wisdom for women out there who are going, yeah, that's not my reality yet?
Hmm.
What kinds of conversations? How do you have those conversations to start to equal the playing field at home as
Yeah.
well as we're trying to do at work?
Yeah. So, I think for us, and I think for anyone, it's truly having that open dialogue and that open communication. Our roles, our jobs are equally demanding. And so for us to be able to both be at work and have 3 children, it was a very early discussion in our marriage to say if this is truly what we want our family life to look
Yeah.
like, and we both want to, maintain our jobs and our roles and continue to reach for our career goals in the future, we need to figure this out together. And so,
Yeah.
we just break tasks down. It can be as simple as, what tasks do you enjoy doing? Which ones do you not enjoy doing? And hopefully your partner likes the ones that you don't like. And so very
Right.
early on, I said I do not enjoy cooking. And so anyone who knows me knows that I don't cook, I don't bake. I'll do it if required, but that's not where I would like to spend my time. And so, my husband took that on. He learned to cook, and he's an amazing chef for our house. And so that's one example of where you just need to be honest about what you enjoy, what you don't enjoy, and how to split that time. And so it could just, one task at a time that you can kind of go through and divvy that up. Um, and then figure out where, depending on where your jobs are. I work in Toronto, he works in the city where we live. And so morning shifts for him were easier. I'll say easier. He probably wouldn't agree with me. But I leave the house and everyone's still asleep in the morning. And so he's the one that gets up and makes the breakfast and the lunches for the day and gets the kids up and out the door for school
Yeah.
before he goes to the office. And then at the end of the day, I'm the one that can, pick them up and bring them home. And get going with homework and all, driving to their various activities while he's doing dinner. So, I just think if you're not yet in a situation where you've got those equal tasks, it's really just sitting down and divvying up everything that needs to get done and making sure that you can have that open conversation. That's where you do have a partner in the house. If you
Yeah.
don't, then you need to be able to outsource some things where possible. Rely on friends, rely on family. What I want to reinforce is that nobody out there is perfect and nobody out there is doing everything all the time. It's physically impossible, and will burn out pretty quickly if you try to do everything perfectly for everybody and be everything to everybody all the time. I always say to new mothers at work, when you come back from that 1 year off of mat leave, there's going to be a huge amount of guilt. You're going to feel guilty that you're leaving your baby and that you're coming back to work. But if that's the path that you choose, that you don't want to be, stay at home parent, then honor that for yourself, and also be gentle with yourself.
Yeah.
Yes, it's not going to be great for the first few months, and that's okay. It wasn't great for any of us, no matter how much we may have, put on the brave face and made it look easy. It wasn't easy, and so I think everyone just needs to also give themselves some grace, and just understand that no one's doing this perfectly, and so you need to have those friends that you can rely on to have those conversations where you can vent, and in a safe space, but you also
Yeah.
do need to try and find a support system as well.
You and I have had a brief conversation about your weekends,
Hmm.
which you've got, you're running kids, whether it's basketball or hockey or skating or dance or whatever. I
Yeah.
mean, you've got your full complement of activities. And what was really interesting for me, and I wonder if you can speak to this, I'm going to call it sensing and switching, but
Hmm.
sensing, I might be in resentment, or it's like
Yeah.
I'm being taken for granted or whatever, and switching to there's a possibility here for me. There's an
Hmm.
opportunity, which actually is fleeting. I won't be driving them
Yeah.
for, 10 years from now, but I am now.
Yeah.
And I have this moment in the vehicle where we're actually both looking forward, and it's not like this. And so there's this opening that might not present itself had I not been available to drive them.
Right.
So and that frame of mind, I think you have applied to a lot of the different events in
Yeah.
your day or your week. Could you talk just a little bit about that? Because it sounded really rich to me.
Yeah. Yeah. There's definitely days where you just feel stressed out and frustrated. And so I don't want to paint a picture that I've got this all worked out, because I don't, but there's definitely times where you could, so that you're not stressed all the time, and you turn that stress of looking at a weekend of, to your point, hockey, basketball, volleyball, tutoring, whatever it may be, as opportunities for connection. And so, in the car ride, my daughter and I used to drive to volleyball, and some of those drives were hours and hours long, like 3 hours if we were, driving into Michigan for a volleyball tournament. And so to be able to take those opportunities to
Wow.
connect and just, listen to their day, what's going on, what's bothering them, what are they really proud of and love, great conversations about what they want to be when they grow up. And so to be able to turn those sometimes stressful situations into those moments of connection, and one-on-one, again, with 3 kids, there's very few occasions where you can have that one-on-one time. And so to be able to turn those car rides, again, even if it's just a
True.
half an hour, 20 minutes to drop my son off to basketball, to just, be there and listen if they're willing to talk. Sometimes teenagers are not always open. But then to also, say the radio is yours, turn on whatever music you want to listen to, and to connect, silently through kind of their music choices. And then that opens a conversation too of, where did you hear about this music, and kind of what are your friends listening to these days. So to be able to find those small connection points, I think, is really critical as well.
It feels to me like that presence is an invitation, but it's not a demand. It's not an
Hmm.
expectation. It's not being, you're not controlling or forcing anything, but it does feel like there's an open door here for you if you want it, and then just kind of nudging every once in a while. Yeah, it feels, you know, one of the things, Lindsay, when I was having kids, um, so our oldest is 44, And
Mhm.
I have four kids, and when they were little, I was like super focused on defining moments.
Right.
Are there those moments that could present themselves where later on that child would go, you know what? I will never forget that thing that happened with my
Mhm.
dad or my mom. And I always thought, oh, if I have those kids for 18 years and then they go off
Mm.
to university, 18 years with each kid, I'm going to have hundreds of them.
Yeah.
And then I found out in the final analysis and having
Yeah.
talked to my kids, there's probably only 10
Yeah.
in an 18-year period. And so being present when they happen, as
Mhm.
opposed to thinking about something else or
Yeah.
somewhere else in your head. So it really feels to me like you're actually there. You're present, and somehow you're able to still all the chaos of what's going on at work or at the
Mhm.
home or the renovation, and be there. How do you do that? How do you be present?
I think you need to be intentional. It's really easy now, especially with phones or cell phones, to not be present. So you can, fall into that trap of the doom scrolling, and you've got a child sitting beside you talking to you and you're not really paying attention. And so it is really important to, when you get home,
Yeah.
where when you can put the phone away and just make sure that they see when they're speaking to you that you're engaging and that you're talking back. And we even, have in our house, and I'm sure many houses, it can be chaotic where every single child wants to speak to you all at the same time. And so even that presence, you need to kind of figure out. And so the other night, actually, I was driving back from the boys back from their tutor, and my older son was, telling me about his day and talking through it. Well, the one in the back, the back seat's like, "Mom, mom, mom, mom." And I'm like, you need to wait your turn. So we definitely have those moments.
Yeah, yeah.
And you can feel them like waiting, but they're getting so impatient. But yeah, I think as parents, it really is about making them visually see that you're there for them and that you're not distracted, and that the emails pinging or the social media scrolling, that comes second to your attention to them. And so it is something that you actually have to be really mindful of. I don't think it comes naturally for a lot of people. And so being very intentional about when you are around them, you're with them. And then when they go to bed, you have that opportunity to go on social media, to log back into work if you need to. But it's really, really hard if you're trying to do all those things at the same time, because they see themselves as being secondary to what you're trying to, what else you're doing. If you're sitting working and kind of talking to them, but not making eye contact, I think that connection piece is lost.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. When I started off, I said that you're a person who thinks and believes something incredible can happen when we are able to elevate and see people's potential and make opportunities
Mhm.
for them. And it feels to me like your home life and your work life are not two different things in one sense, right?
Mhm.
They're not highly striated, and it's not that there's massive spillover. But what I'm saying here is that your practice, your capabilities, your skill. So spotting talent doesn't just happen at work for you.
Mhm.
You're spotting talent and potential, and you're seeing something in your kids, and you're figuring out how is that gonna come to life. And so you're basically doubling up on your practice, both
Right.
at home and at work, in capabilities that play really nicely in both worlds. Does that feel true to you?
Yeah, I think it does. And I think that's why at work I've been so happy and successful in what I do, because I'm not going to work and trying to be somebody else. At work, I am truly who I am, and I'm
Yeah.
bringing my values and, my work ethic and my care that I have every single day for my family and my friends, and everything I do outside of work. I'm bringing that same mentality to the office, and so it's just natural for me to be in the role that I'm in. I think I was really, really lucky early on to stumble into a lecture hall that was offering HR, and it just happened to click. I don't know. I know there's a lot of people out there who don't necessarily love what they do every single day. But I definitely have been fortunate enough to be in
Yeah.
that role. And I think, that's why, Brady, you're seeing that, who I am at work is actually who I am, period, in my life. And so
Yeah.
there's no, work mask that I need to put on to be successful at work. what you see is what you get
Yeah.
at work and at home. And so, that just makes, I think, who I am and what I'm able to achieve that much easier for me, for sure.
I love the word one. And, there's so much of our world that could use that right now, but
Mhm.
that whole ability to take what seems to be opposing, what seems to be disparate, what seems to be in competition, and say, no, the work of leaders is to integrate in surprising and value adding ways and to make things truly united and one.
Mhm.
And that's the work that I think you've done in your world. Is it's not two Lindsays. It's not a home Lindsay and a work Lindsay. It's a one Lindsay that integration really shows. And I just want to call that out as beautiful.
Thank you. I really appreciate that.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to thank you for being with us today. I can't wait for our viewers and our listeners to enjoy this podcast. And I know that you could have been doing other things. And so I want to just give you my gratitude for being on What Juices You. It's been a really beautiful privilege to be with you, Lindsay.
Thank you so much, Brady, for inviting me. It's been an honor to be part of your podcast. So thank you.